State Representative Christy Zito probably had a few moments last night where I'd say they were uncomfortable. There was a time when her primary race against Brenda Richards for District 23 state Senate seat was, I think I read this during the course of the evening. I got up at one point, checked some messages on my phone, and somebody was writing, she's clinging to a 7-point lead or a 7-vote lead. And I thought, I'm not so sure that clinging really, and the lead grew as the evening went on, and she ended up pulling this out, especially after the votes finally came in from Owyhee County, the vote totals there. She's joining us this morning on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. We're at 63. It's 8:34. Bill Colley with you on Magic Valley this morning until 10 a.m. Representative, welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Bill Colley, and thank you.
Right off the top, of course, I've been joking about this all morning long. Brenda, who may not have had a lot of name recognition, spent a lot of money advertising on my program, and I think the place she may have done the best was really in Twin Falls County, in that part of the district that is in one side of Twin Falls County, and you didn't spend a lot of money at all. Come to think of it, because I didn't hear much in the way of your commercials while I was sitting here in the mornings. Not that I'm being critical, but obviously I mentioned also as well early in the program that you seem to be more reliant on what I call retail politics, and that is you're out meeting people on the streets and in diners and talking with them in the grocery store, and all of these things obviously played a role, I think, in your victory. Do you think that you're perhaps onto something with that approach?
Well, I don't know if it's onto something, because it's not. I don't do it as a campaign approach or a political approach. I do that because that's where I live my life. I would rather spend the campaign funds that we have actually being with the people that I'm going to represent, or that I do represent. Someone joked one time, they said, you can't even go to Walmart. And I said, no, if I'm going to go pick up one item, I better plan on spending 3 hours, because I'm always so pleased when people will stop and talk to me, when people will stop and express to me their concerns and their thoughts, and talk politics, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. Because, Bill, that's why I'm there. I mean, you can spend all the money on radio and all the money on television and have endorsements from all kinds of celebrities or whatever, but I represent the everyday person that gets up, goes to work, works hard so they can pay their taxes, take care of their families, make ends meet. Those are the people that I represent, and that's where I want to put my time. And it's never been done as a political thing. I do it every day. This is my job, and I make it that way, and I've arranged my life that way so that I can be that representative of the people. I work for them, and I make myself available to them. And so, it wasn't to win the election, it's because that's what I do. And so then if an election is won because of that, that's how it should be.
Did you have an inkling, though, that you were going to pull this off?
This is like the third time that we've been here the morning after an election like this. we have these conversations during the election process, and I'm never confident in a win. I never take for granted that we're going to pull it off, and especially in an election like this year, there were a lot of moving parts that needed to come together, and that's not fair to the people you represent either, to just assume that they're going to give you their vote. If I don't earn that support, and if I don't earn their vote, then I'm not worthy of it. And so I never take for granted that I might win. I never just assume that I have a certain area or district or precinct. It all matters, and it all counts, and you better be out there working hard for people, or you just don't deserve it.
I got about a minute before the break, and of course, I know a lot of Republicans in Twin Falls County who think you do this through some sort of incantation, because they just can't understand why so many people keep voting for you. But do you think after 3 times, twice over in the House and now in a Senate race, that they might start realizing that perhaps there is a large constituency that agrees with you?
Well, they may realize that, but I people from time to time will joke with me and they'll say, "Well, you're the new you're just like Helen Chenoweth. You're just like she was." And one time I just looked at somebody and I said, "Yeah, but I don't. Was she challenged every time?" And they said, "Oh yes, continuously." So I don't anticipate that there'll ever be a time that I run for office that the same thing won't happen, that the same guns won't come out after us, that the same huge amounts of money won't be spent, and I don't anticipate that will ever end.
Well, I hope you try better than she did. So we'll just we want you around for a while. We've got a short break, Representative. We've got more coming up though with State Representative Christy Zito on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. We're at 63 already. It's 8:40. Bill Cully on Magic Valley this morning until 10 a.m. State Representative Christy Zito joining us this morning, and as I was saying earlier, I think that you still have to go through a general election, but it's, I think, a given at this point that she is going to be the next senator in District 23 in the Idaho State Senate, replacing the retiring Burt Brackett. It's 8:41. Bill Colley with you on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. We're at 61, and I brought this up earlier. There has been, I think, a belief all along when you won the very first time out and you defeated a very well-known representative in Rich Wills. I had people say, "Well, Rich didn't work very hard at it," and I had met him, and I thought he was a pretty hard-working guy. So there was always, it couldn't really be the voters decided on Christie. And then the second time around, you did it again, and by a pretty good margin. And now you've done it this time. I don't understand what is it, why some of these other Republicans just seem to bristle about having you in office. Is it that you're not wearing the right corporate sponsor logo, or you're not kissing somebody's ring? What's going on?
I think there's a little bit of both of that. I think that sometimes, one of your former representatives down there, he writes in a newspaper often. When I was successful the first time, he came to me, and he was very nice and very cordial, and I'm still very nice and very cordial to him, even though he blocked me on Facebook 5 minutes after he brutally criticized me one time, so that I couldn't respond, but that's okay.
No, not any misogyny going on there, but go ahead.
No, he called me some pretty ugly names, and then I blocked me, so I couldn't respond. That's social media. It's whatever. But he sent me down, and he said, "Now you got a decision to make here." And I'm like, "Okay, because this guy's been in politics forever, and I was kind of a newbie." And he said, "Well, you're just going to have to decide if you're going to work for them that voted for you, that bring you here, or if you're going to fall in line and do what's right." And I'm like, "Whoa." I'm here for the people that voted for me, and I was like everybody else. That first time we were successful, you always wonder, was it a fluke? Was it a political fluke? You just didn't know. And I'm that way because I don't have a lot of confidence in myself, so I work extra hard to make up for what I see as my shortcomings and my failings. So, after he said that to me, I thought, I am here for my people. I am here for those, whether you voted for me or not, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Constitutionalist, Independent, I don't care what you are. Once I'm in that office, I represent you and I work for you. And I think that is kind of, sometimes for a lot of people, that's a lost thing. You become, I call some of them the checkoff people, the PACs, the bureaucratic agencies, the different things. People sometimes have a tendency to listen more to them than to the people that they actually represent, and that could be it. I don't know, Bill. You talk to some of these people far more than I do. You probably have a better feel for it than I do, because I want to be with our people and represent them and work hard for them.
We have a mutual friend in Cuna, and he told me one time that he was at a Republican meeting in Canyon County, And one of the leaders told him, he said, your problem is you got too much a connection to the Constitution. And Tom looked at him and said, well, you're a lawyer, don't you?
I know. Well, and how can you? That's something else. That's a really good point, Bill. Is I hear this name calling, and we have these groups now that call themselves like conservatives or conservationists and the conservative one really gets me. And they will spend all this time bashing anyone who really wants to uphold their oath of office. Now, for me, there's two parts to something. Number one, like I just said, I represent those people. Every person in this district. I've had a Democrat ask me before, well, you're a Republican. Do you represent me? Well, of course I do. And then the other part to that is I took an oath of office. And my oath of office said that I will uphold the Constitution. And then I guess really there's a third part to it as well, as I ran as a Republican. And when I read the Republican platform, I feel like that I've represented myself as such. So I should adhere to that as much as possible. But the Constitution always comes first because that is the oath that I swear. I raised my hand on the floor. It's been on the House of Representatives that first day in that organization meeting. I raised my arm to the square, and I promise, I vow, I oath that I will uphold the Constitution. And I can't believe the criticism that a lot of legislators will take because they choose to honor that oath of office.
I'm curious as to why you decided that the Senate would be, more fertile ground for your beliefs and your efforts. Because at this stage of the game, I know that you still have to be alert and aware of the general election, but for the most part, it is just it's just another speed bump on your way now. But why do you think the Senate was a better fit for you?
Well, I just like when I ran the first time, when that seat, when it was announced that seat would be open, I got so many phone calls and so many emails, and so many people contacted me, and they said, you have to run for that seat. And their thought pattern was that we have seen in the time that I've been in the House, a lot of good legislation go over to the Senate. And I know for me that Brian Zollinger and Brandon Durst and I worked on an abortion bill. And it wasn't perfect, but it would have defunded abortion providers from state money in our state. And then you get some of these really good things. We've had some tax relief bills. We've had the bill that would make it so that the IDAPA rules had to be approved by the House and the Senate, which they should, because right now we're controlled by the bureaucratic agencies. We really have no, when it comes right down to it, say in those rules that have effective law in your life. And the House has sent some really good stuff over, and then it just seems to go to the Senate, and it either gets hijacked and turned into something that it was never meant to be, like the one hemp bill, or it just dies. And so we focused a lot on the House, and I think, there are some really, really good people who have gotten into office in the House this time, some true people who will honor their oath of office to uphold the Constitution and those principles. But if we don't have something in the Senate, and that was the rationalization and the justification that that people presented to me when they asked me if I would run for the Senate. And I, excuse me, I prayed a lot about it, and I spoke to my, my closest friends and advisors about it. And, they said, well, you could probably be pretty secure in your House seat, but, this is the feeling of the people that you represent, that this is what they're looking at, and this is what they want. So that's what I did.
Well, got to mention we're speaking with State Representative Christy Zito, who came out victorious in a primary as of the counting of the votes last night for the 23rd District State Senate seat, and she will be replacing the retiring Burt Brackett at 64. We're at 8:49. Bill Colley on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and News Radio 1310.com. How about your successor? Because that's the other thing. You're leaving a seat that you now know who your successor is going to be in that seat. Do you think that your successor will, continue, I guess, to carry the flame?
We can hope.
We had a couple of different candidates, and obviously, I don't know, and people are so busy with their own races. I know they're not necessarily getting involved. Your focus is winning on your own. But Brian lost his seat. Now Ron Nate came back and captured his old seat. So the makeup of the House is probably not going to be too much different than it currently is.
I think there might be a little bit more of a shift towards that. Let's not call them conservatives anymore, because I think that word has been tainted some. Let's say there will be a little bit more of a shift towards those who will uphold that oath of office. I think there's been some shift there in the House. I think we'll see a little bit more of that with some of the people who have been successful.
Do you think, though, at some point, because you get over to the Senate and there'll be, of course, your orientation you'll be a little bit more familiar because of some similarities in just parliamentary procedure and how things are done. But I don't expect that you're going to get over there and have a big welcoming committee. You're going to stand out like a sore thumb in many ways over there.
Well, there are some. Senator Bear, she's amazing. She's another one who really, really respects and upholds and obeys her oath of office. I think that there will be more than we give credit for. There will be some of those who are, the old establishment guard that no matter what are not going to, they're still going to, I don't even know what word to use. But I think we'll see a little bit of a difference. We've got Lieutenant Governor over there who's, president of the Senate. She obeys her oath of office. I hope I don't stick out like a sore thumb. I would like to think that that the encouragement and that we give, and there are a couple of other people, I believe, I haven't really looked at the races. It was pretty late when we finally got a Waihe County in last night, and the gals that were poll watchers for me didn't get home till like 2, and you can't go to bed or relax until you know they're home and safe. So I haven't really had a chance to look at it, and then of course the phone rings and messages and everything all morning long. But I don't think it'll be that I don't think I'll stick out like a sore thumb. I think that I think we'll see things move more towards obeying that oath of office, looking out for the best interest of our people, governing from a position that we do represent the people of the state of Idaho, the citizens of the state of Idaho, that we shouldn't work for the lobby group, that we shouldn't work for the checkoff money, that, that's not where our loyalty should be.
I'm going to try to squeeze a caller in here. And caller, you're on the air with State Representative Christy Zito at 8:53 on KLIX.
Congratulations, Senator-elect Zito. I'm sorry I don't live in your district. I would have voted for you, certainly supported you, and you're absolutely right. The solution to the problems of this country is that we get back and hold our politicians' feet to the fire by keeping their oath of office. They swear to uphold and defend the U.S. Constitution, and then many of them just throw it in the corner and vote for more socialism, more spending, try to buy votes, and so forth. And I want to congratulate Christy Zito for her stand to being a constitutional conservative. And I know there's a lot of people out there that want to restore this country back to the founding fathers' interpretation of our Constitution to limit government and all of this excesses that are going on that have brought us to this brink of disaster. So congratulations to you, and we'll be cheering you and supporting you. And I know that your work will be well taken up there, and being a good example. We appreciate all that you've done in the past, and know you'll do a great job in the future. Thank you very much.
I want to thank you for the call. We've got about 4 minutes to go. Anything, your response to that?
Well, I am grateful for his support. I know who that caller is, and
Me too.
and and I am grateful because Bill, it's important enough to so many people around the state that a lot of the support that I receive is from people from other parts of our state outside of our district, because they can see that, what, as it should be, you represent a specific district. I am voted in, I'm elected, I represent the people of District 23. But I think that's another thing that happens is, and we see this on a federal level especially bad, but it happens in our state as well. On a federal level, we call them pork projects. But on a state level, people will say, well, this happened in my district and that happened in my district, and we need to fix it because of that. Well, and that's all fine and good, but how does it affect the rest of the state? Because if as a state as a whole, we are not healthy, then as a district, we are not going to be healthy. So the decisions that we make need to be made looking through the window of what is best for the entire state. Who does it help? Who does it hurt? Does it uphold the Constitution? Is it moral? What are the unintended consequences? And those are very, very important questions that need to be asked about every piece of legislation and every decision that we make when we're in those positions, because it truly does affect the whole entire state. The money that's spent on a project, everything that happens doesn't just affect a specific district, no matter how district specific that is. And we see that in some of the law and stuff that we have to look at that affect counties and like county elections and stuff like that, because things that happen in the county and those codes and statutes, even though it may be kind of specifically written for a certain area, it affects every county in the state, so every legislative district. So you have to be really cautious, careful, and aware as to not only how does it affect your district and how does it represent your people, but what will it do statewide as well.
I'm going to ask you, can you stick around through the next segment after the news?
Sure. Yeah, if you would like me to, you bet.
Yeah, because there's going to be a lot of telephone calls now coming up. Adrian broke the ice here. We'll get a caller in, and then we'll go to the break for news, and you can answer the question afterward or comment on it. Caller, go ahead. You're on KLIX.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, you're talking to Christy Zito, and if she beat back the Central Committee Rhino Republican endorsement, I'm just pleased. I can't believe it. Anybody that has doubt about this lady, if you get to know her, you'll know just how grounded she is, how knowledgeable she is, how honest she is. And this state needs more of them. We don't need Butch Otter going against somebody like Christy Zito. You know what? Farm Bureau endorsed Christy Zito in the magazine, and I said, well, at least Farm Bureau seems to be squared away. Thanks, man. I'll hang up.
And by the way, we could turn that into we could use that as a testimonial for your campaign commercials for the general. We've got to get to a short break.
He's passionate. He really is, and he's passionate about the state.
Well, we've got to get to a short break. We'll get back to this in just a couple of minutes. Christy's going to stick around a little after the news with us. That's coming up, of course, at 9 o'clock from Fox and a local update as well. We're at 64. Bill Cowley with you on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. You're listening to Magic Valley This Morning. Christy Zito, and I think it was well said by a caller in the last half hour, she is now state senator-elect because there's not going to be any competition here before. Well, you might have a write-in attempt, but trust me, that's not easily done. Almost insurmountable odds about that. 5 minutes after 9 o'clock. So winning the primary yesterday means that she is a Republican, is likely the next senator in District 23, representing parts of Twin Falls County and all of Hawaii in Elmore counties. And we're about 5 minutes now after 9 o'clock. Bill Cowley with you, too, on News Radio 1310 KLIX. We're at 65. Representative, I know there are people still looking to get in touch with you, so we'll get right back to the telephones if you don't mind.
Oh, that's absolutely fine. But first, before I forget, I want to thank everybody, even though it's social media, for their support on Facebook. I want to thank all of the voters for their support. in and out of our district. I just want to make sure that my gratitude for that is expressed before I get into the calls and forget to be grateful.
Because they'll never forgive you.
Well, I won't forgive myself. Gratitude it's a thing of the heart. It's good for us. It's good for us.
We've got a caller on the air with us right now. Caller, you're on the air with Christy Zito on KLIX.
Well, first let me say congratulations. And
thank you.
Secondly, I'm tuning in a little late, and I wanted to know. I don't know if you covered this already, but there's been a newspaper report about the unemployment situation in Idaho, and I'm one of the people who has not received unemployment. I was laid off in March, and it's got to where you cannot get through to the unemployment office, and you're filing these things weekly, and it says they'll call you, and they never call you. They set up apparently a call center, and now I tried to call the call center this morning. First thing you get, all day yesterday you get nothing, and then today you get you can wait for 4 hours. I'm just calling to say, is there anything that we can do about this? What can a person do who's got no unemployment help in this layoff? Hopefully we'll be back to work soon, but we've got no help whatsoever.
Christy.
Right, and I am getting calls and messages from people. I don't know if you're on Facebook, or I have a website. You can send me an email there, and then or Facebook message me or whatever. Get me your information, and then I can I can't promise anything. I'm not with that department, but I can maybe get you the new number or walk you through that. This has been really bad because there are a lot of people who, through no fault of their own, because we've gone from one of the best economies with the lowest unemployment rates in the history of our country to some of the highest now, over something that isn't proving to have the numbers to have been the emergency that we have been told that it is. And I get a little passionate about this because I'm in touch with the people whose lives are being destroyed, lives, businesses, savings, the whole entire thing. So, if you'll contact me personally, then we'll see what we can do to get you a little bit closer on that list.
Okay, thank you so much.
Want to thank the
you're
caller.
Most welcome.
Yeah, I heard from a woman last week on my own Facebook page. She's in the same boat. She's been struggling since the end of March. No money, just absolutely nothing. I don't know how people are doing it.
It's costing them everything they have, Bill. It's costing them their savings. They're probably having to dip into their retirement. They're probably having to liquidate assets to get by. This is just not good. You just do not do this to the citizens of your state, to the citizens of the country. You just don't.
We've got another caller. Caller, you're next. You're on the air with State Representative Christy Zito. Go ahead.
Thank you. I want to congratulate Christy, appreciate her values and the support in the agricultural industry out here. Farm Bureau was thank you for your support in Boise, and we feel that your conservative values are very important to us. And once again, Christy,
well, I'm very grateful for you. You've been there for me from the beginning, and you've supported me from the beginning, and I'm so grateful for you, and I'm so grateful to Farm Bureau. They have stayed so true. If you read their policy book now and read their policy book from 10 years ago, they have not shifted with the tide of public opinion. They stay true to their people. They stay true to the people that, support them and keep them there. So thank you.
Well, once again, Christy, I can remember when you first entered politics, you were a little green, and you're definitely polished now. So thank you again, and both. We appreciate your program. Thank you, sir.
Hey, thank you. Great call. When you first got started in this, and it caught me by surprise because I've known you since 2007 or 2008, and it was interesting because you were the oldest friend I had, and I strike that. There's a woman I knew when I was in high school who lives in Moscow, but I haven't talked to her in over 40 years. But you were the oldest friend otherwise I had in Idaho, and I never thought that you would be running for political office. When you announced, I sat back and thought, huh?
Well, I didn't know I was going to either, so.
Well,
we were both there.
I wanted to point out Christy Zito is joining us this morning on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com, and she is effectively on her way now to the state Senate, having won the primary after they counted the votes last night, and by a pretty good margin. Percentage double digits, right?
I've been looking. I can't find anywhere that has the total right now. I think Owyhee County was so late getting in last night. They didn't release any results until they were all done.
It's a big.
So I'm not exactly sure
county
right now what the margin is.
It's a big county. You have to take you've got to get ballots from some places to other places, and
well, remember, Bill, they all went.
They were mailed. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like we had to wait for ballot boxes to come in from all of the precincts.
Gosh, they couldn't disappear them like they may have in previous.
Let's not even talk about it.
All right. Hey, speaking of that district,
go there.
that district is massive, but the census numbers are going to come out in a few months, and there's a very good possibility that your district is going to be among those. And I know, since that so many of these other Republicans are so sweet on you, that they'd love to redraw that district and perhaps try to make it more difficult for you in the future. Are you already kind of thinking this through and gaming what you might have to do if you end up partly in Canyon County as well, and maybe lose Twin and see some of these changes coming?
I'm not exactly sure how to anticipate that because it could go so many different ways. And so I think the only thing I'll say about that, Bill, is it's so unfortunate that rather than to look at it as a whole and what would be really best for the voters in the state, that so many people will spend so much time trying to gerrymander to affect a candidate. And then I think I'll just leave it there.
Well, there's just so much work to do. You referenced the state of the economy and what we've gone through. And I know there are a lot of legislators who are not happy about this situation, and that they were not consulted by the governor, or he didn't even give them a warning. I have been told this, but they're mostly off the record with these comments. And I've got to think that perhaps this could be at least a bit of unity between some of you and your colleagues as we go forward.
Well, I would hope that it would be, because I would hope that as the voice of the people that they represent, for the governor to do what he did and to not consult the legislature, he's basically looking at every individual in the state of Idaho and saying, I don't care what you think. I'm going to make this decision with my bureaucratic agencies, and this is what we're going to do. And, I've been careful to not really criticize the governor because that's, just not. But at the same time, we hear people say, oh, the legislature needs to do something. Well, what? We can't call ourselves back into session. I mean, people have been looking at the law and different things to try to figure out if because of the way this has been declared an emergency, if we can. But the bottom line is this. At this point in time, these decisions were made by one person alone. No matter where the advice came from, no matter who they consulted with, one person made these decisions. And when you're one person who gets to make a decision, you get to own it, and you get to own the results of it. Just like with you, Bill, no matter what happens on your radio station and no matter what you might say when you're on the air, the buck stops with the owner of that station because they're the one that's going to hear about it, and ultimately they're responsible for what happens. And whether you own a business or you're in politics or whatever, when you're that one person that makes that decision and you don't consult with, especially in our government, because we have three branches, right? We have the executive branch, and we have the legislative branch, and we have the judicial branch. The executive branch made these decisions on their own without consulting the legislative branch, which are the people. So that leaves one branch of government totally responsible for the results of what have happened here and the decisions that are made.
I think we've got another caller with us. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air on KLIX with State Representative Christy Zito.
Well, forgive me for calling back, but I think this needs to be said. When Brad Little wanted to study the fish populations from the coast, he had a committee. He didn't, you want to know that, who he consulted on this. Some of the biggest dairymen in the valley, the biggest farmers in the valley, the biggest truckers in the valley. He didn't consult with any of them because I do business with them. And I said to myself, well, who does he listen to? I'll hang up.
Of course, he said it wasn't Rachel Maddow.
That's what he said.
Well,
well, yeah, but he doesn't. Even if he doesn't go to each one of those individually, they all have an elected representative, someone that they chose to be their voice and to be their voice at the table when a decision needs to be made.
well, I know from my own experience, I don't talk to Scott Bedke a lot, but it seems to me that it takes a lot to get him miffed. And I mean, really boiling. And as I understand it, he's a big fish in this pond too, and somebody stepped on his toes by not consulting him in advance. I just don't know how you do that, because you may need the support of some of these people in a couple of years.
Well, you would think so, and not. Let's just take it a step beyond support or political gain or moving future legislation through, because those are all parts of the political game that's played. But Bill, Scott Bedke is the voice of the people in his district. He represents their will, and just on that level, he's no different than any other legislator. And you're right, he's a very cool cucumber. He's smart. He's very intelligent. It takes a lot to get him riled up. But by not consulting with the legislature, by not involving the voice of the people, whether it's Scott Bedke or someone in northern Idaho or wherever they are, you are bypassing the thought process and the ideas and the will of the people of the state. And I don't know what else to say about it other than that. And I think, we've talked about it before, and okay, at first, nobody knew for sure what it was going to be. Nobody knew how it was going to spread, who it was going to affect. But as soon as we could see that the damage of having our economy and our state shut down was more devastating on a personal level to the citizens of our state than the virus was, then you say, okay, it didn't turn out the way we anticipated. We did what we thought we should do. Go back to work. We don't need suicide. We don't need depression. We don't need increased alcohol use. We don't need increased domestic violence. We don't need any of this stuff. Let's get our economy going. Let's get back to work. Let's let our people be productive. There's nothing wrong with saying it didn't turn out the way we thought it would, so let's right this ship as quick as we can and make things happen. And, this tracking and social distancing and having to have a QR code to be able to get in the grocery store, and, that could even go as far possibly as maybe Idaho Power won't turn your power on if you don't have a health certificate. I don't know. You could spin this in your mind to a million different places. But the point is we don't need that. I don't believe all of that is constitutional. I don't read anywhere in the Constitution, and you can bash me all you want for going back to that document, but that's the founding document of our country. That's where we should return to when we're looking at these big questions that will affect every life of every person in our state for generations to come. Is it constitutional? And if it's not, we better not do it.
If you can stick around till 9:30, we've got more calls.
Okay.
And we'll do that. We'll keep Representative Zito with us for a few more minutes on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. But first, we have some messages, fine messages from fine sponsors. It's 63. It's 20 minutes after 9 o'clock. Bill Colley with you on News Radio 1310 KLIX and News Radio 1310. State Representative Christy Zito joining us on newsradio1310.com and News Radio 1310 KLIX. It's 22 minutes after 9 o'clock. We're at 63. Bill Colley with you for the duration of the Magic Valley this morning. Yes, until 10 o'clock. By the way, at this time next year, we'll be calling her state senator versus state representative, Christy Zito. She defeated a rival in the primary yesterday and now moves on to a general election that is really just sort of an exercise now at this point. We've got a caller looking to join us at the moment. It's 9:23 now on KLIX. And caller, You're on the air with Christy Zito. Go ahead. Do we have the caller? I think our caller dropped out on us.
Hello?
Oh, who do we have here? I may have lost Christy as well.
Uh-oh.
Oh, caller, go ahead. What's your question,
I
caller?
just wanted to congratulate.
Okay, we've got Christy back. Christy, we've got the caller with us. Go ahead, caller.
Hi, Christy.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you. I'm proud to know you
Thank you.
and to have helped your campaign. And I just want to thank you for the example that you have set for so many people here in Idaho as far as what a representative really is all about. And it's about representing people, the ordinary people that pay the taxes, that live and die here. I think people tend to forget that's what representative government is all about. It's not representing the big money and the power brokers. And we've really gotten so far away from the original intent of our constitutional government. And I appreciate your strength and your determination. I know you're going to be a wonderful senator. And I know that we get the government we deserve as people. And if we are going to be passive about it, then people will just take over. And that's exactly what we're seeing today. I think with Brad Little, though, is we have to ask where is his allegiance, and it seems like it's money driven, and to what gain, I'm not sure, but I want to see him made accountable for his choices.
Well, you know what, Representative Zito, I'm going to ask you to do one quick favor for me, and that is also hang up again and call me right back because I've got to rejigger the telephone lines, and so what we'll do is we'll get back to Christy in just a moment. And what we'll do is we'll get her take on that, and we'll get a response for the caller as far as that goes on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Representative, do we have you back?
Yes.
Okay. I just had to flip telephone lines, but the caller, shares with us, I think, the same frustration that hundreds of thousands of Idahoans have right now, and this is going to be a difficult climb back out of this ditch, if you will.
Oh, it is. It is, because so here's the other thing. So we have to practice social distancing. So I went into, I forget what restaurant it was the other day, and they can only fill to 50% capacity. And so, they've been out of work for 8 weeks, 2 months, 3 months. I can't remember how long it is now. It's kind of been a blur with everything else that's going on and all this other stuff that we're seeing now. And I spoke with the owner of the restaurant, and I said, so you have to put half of your chairs up. You can only have 50% capacity in here. I said, are you going to be able to make up what you've lost in revenue at 50%? And they said, absolutely not. We've even had to cut back on our employees, and they're having a hard time to get unemployment because you can't get through the phone at the Labor Department to get it. Well, why are we doing this to those people who are the backbone of our state? These small businesses, and it's our intermediate and our larger businesses as well. Trucking was considered essential from the very beginning. But I have constituents who have trucking companies, and from the get-go, their business was down to 50% because of this. You can't survive that way. You can't take care of your employees. And that's the thing, the beauty of this that I'm finding is when I engage in conversation with people about the situation, business owners, one of the first things they'll say is it's not, well, I'm going to lose my savings, I'm going to lose this, I'm going to lose that. I can't take care of my employees. And what is my family going to do? And Bill, this is just, there's no way you can justify that this is right. There's just absolutely no way you can justify this. And then to tell them that they can only, that's not liberty and that's not freedom. That's communism and socialism to say, okay, you can work and you can't, and you get to do this, and you can only have this many employees in your business at one time. That is not American, and that is not a republic. I will argue that all day long.
Yeah, I was in the business of a mutual friend of ours last weekend, and she was telling me that she has probably lost, while she was called non-essential for a couple of months, she lost a year's worth of rent on her business, on the building. We've got about a minute left. I think that there's a callousness in this. I don't think that anybody in the role of a governor could be that cold, but it just seems to me that that's how this happened.
Well, who made it? And where is it written or decreed or whatever that one person can declare somebody unessential? I mean, are you unessential? Am I unessential? And who makes that decision? And what will be determined to be unessential next time? And how far can you take that once you're successful in making that decision?
Yeah, it smacks of totalitarianism. Christy Zito, I got to thank you for your time this morning, and again, congratulations on the victory.
Thank you, Bill. And I enjoy being on your show. I've enjoyed visiting with you back in Delaware when we used to talk on your radio show back there. And I would like to congratulate you on your consistency and your honesty and not buying into this and really standing as well. Where you are a voice of the people as well. And I would like to congratulate you for being consistent and standing for the people in your area. And again, I am so grateful for the support and the love and the friendship and the trust that the people of this district and the state have put in me. And I pray to God that I don't let you down and that I can continue to represent you in the fashion that you see fit. And just thank you.
Well, I thank you again for your time, and have a great rest of your week. We've got to get to a break. It's almost 9:30. We're at 64 on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com.